Let's go back, all the way back to when you were a child. Did you feel it then? That sense that you just didn't belong? Like you were watching the world from behind glass? An outsider from the very beginning? While the other kids were playing, completely carefree, did you feel the weight of everything? Did you hear adults say, "You think too much," or "Why are you always so serious?" And maybe, for your entire life, you've carried that feeling with you. You've believed it was some kind of flaw, a defect in who you are that set you apart and made you feel wrong.
But what if it wasn't a flaw? What if it was a mark, a divine sign, placed on your soul before you even took your first breath, setting you apart for a purpose that is only now starting to come into focus?
Let's look at the signs. The very first one is that sense of maturity you had way too early. The feeling that you were an old soul in a world that didn't understand you. Think about it. At 5, 6 years old, other kids wanted toys. You wanted answers. You were thinking about why people were sad, why they lied, what this life was all about. You asked questions that rattled adults because you saw things they'd learned to ignore. To the world, you just seemed strange, maybe a little distant. And I know that probably hurt, but the divine truth is, you were being trained. God was sharpening your eyes, teaching you to see beyond the surface, because your destiny required it. You see, that early maturity was a requirement. It wasn't a mistake. God set you apart early to keep you from getting lost in the noise of the world. He was tuning your spirit to a frequency that could one day hear His voice, loud and clear. Now, for the second sign, this one is often the source of the deepest pain. We're talking about a long, profound season of isolation. Does this hit home? You were either the one left out at school, or you just chose to be by yourself. You spent countless hours in your room, your mind your only companion. You probably cried, wondering why you couldn't just fit in, why you were always on the outside looking in. But there is a sacred principle here. God often isolates those He plans to use in a mighty way. Think about Moses in the desert. David, alone in the fields with his sheep. This is not rejection, it is separation for preparation. God was shielding His investment in you from worldly contamination. And that's the whole point. As painful as that solitude was, it was also your training ground. In the quiet, you built an unshakable inner world. You learned to trust your own counsel. God was forging the strength and clarity you'd need to lead, because a true leader must be able to stand alone. The third sign is about the emotional weight you carried, a burden that was far too heavy for your small shoulders. You were the little peacemaker, weren't you? The family mediator. You sensed every bit of tension. When adults argued, you felt it was your responsibility to fix it, absorbing their worries like a sponge. And it felt so unfair. You were watching other kids be kids while you were managing adult emotions. But this was a divine process. By seeing human brokenness up close, by absorbing that pain, God was forging in you an empathy so profound it could only come from the fire. He was preparing you for a ministry of healing. So let's reframe the story. It wasn't that you lost your childhood, it's that you were commissioned early. Every burden you carried, every tear you wiped away, it was all expanding your soul's capacity. God was building a vessel strong enough to one day hold the pain of many. Okay, the fourth sign. This one is maybe the most mysterious of all. An unexplainable intuition, a supernatural shield of protection that has been over your life from the start. You've always had it, haven't you? An inner radar for people. Someone could have the whole world fooled, but you would feel that check in your spirit, that quiet warning, stay away, something isn't right. And you were always proven right. And think back, really think, how many times did you narrowly escape disaster? That car accident that should have happened. That illness that had no explanation. That one moment you were pulled back from a truly destructive path right at the last second. That wasn't luck. That was God's hand on your life. That was His voice declaring, "This one is mine. Their mission is not finished. Do not touch them." He was protecting His purpose for you long before you even knew what it was. And the final sign. This is the one that's so often misunderstood as just being a rebel. It's that deep, unshakable need you have to question authority. Look, this was never about being disobedient just for the sake of it. It was about a fire in your soul that ignited whenever you saw injustice. You just couldn't follow rules that felt wrong, or stand by silently when someone was being mistreated. Others might have called you stubborn, but the reality is your inner compass was never designed to point toward human authority.
It was built to point toward truth. God put a craving for justice in your bones because He destined you to be someone who breaks down corrupt systems.
So let's recap. Early maturity, deep isolation, heavy emotional burdens, divine protection, and a relentless drive for truth. These 5 signs, they caused pain. They made you feel alone. But I'm telling you, not a moment of it was wasted. They were the tools of your anointing. It is time to stop seeing yourself as a survivor of a hard childhood. That's not your identity. You are not a victim. You are a chosen one who has been through the intense fire of preparation. The pain was not your punishment. It was your incubation. Now that you see it, now that you understand, the purpose behind it all can finally become clear. God doesn't invest this much preparation in someone for a small purpose. His plan for you is immense. So the question is no longer, why did I go through that? The question now is, am I ready to accept my mission? If this resonates deep in your spirit, if you feel that call, it's time to make a declaration. Do it for yourself. Acknowledge that your past finally makes sense and your future finally has a name. From this day on, walk in the full knowledge of your destiny. You are chosen.